But yeah, with those, it's just a practice thing for me with the videos. And every once in a while you post and you get the people that know everything about the instrument, know how to play every beat, those kind of critiquers, and you just it's, from what I've learned, it's best to just kind of ignore that. But you and I met on a Facebook drum group, and that's what I like about the drumming groups is everyone's actually pretty chill and supportive and very helpful. Like, hey, try this, or how do you do this? It's just like this nice community of drummers that just want to help each other out.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Music Matters in That podcast. I'm your host, Brian. And joining me today from Colorado, do you pronounce it Kristofer Petross?
Yeah, close. It's like Petross.
Petross.
So yeah, it's like Tetris, but you add a pet in front of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of clever too, but I assumed it was something like that, but I wanted to at least try to pronounce it as close as I could. So I'm terrible with last names. So
you were very close, so good job.
All right, thank you so much, man. Where in Colorado are you? Are you in Denver or Boulder?
I'm actually 4 hours west of Denver and Boulder. I am in Grand Junction, Colorado, which is like 20 miles from the Utah border. So I'm not in the mountains. I'm in the high desert part.
Okay. I just knew some family who always goes out to Boulder, Colorado, and looks like it's a big ski resort and everything else there too.
Oh, yeah. Like if you go a little bit 2 hours west from there, you get Vail, which is where like all the rich people like to go ski and live. And it's on top of the mountains. So it's a cool place until you get stuck on top of there when it snows, like I did a couple weeks ago. Went and saw Deftones and got stuck on the mountains. So that was fun.
Oh, really? Yeah. I did, because we were talking on Facebook there, because I had posted pictures, or just that one picture with when it was Deftones, Gojira, and that other band, Vowels. I'm not too sure about them too, but that's what you saw too.
Yeah, I saw that same concert, and it was amazing. I loved it because I've loved the Deftones since I was about 11 years old, and they've just been a constant favorite.
That's sweet too, and I said in the comments too, I did love Deftones, and I thought they got better with like each song as they kept going along. I don't know why. I felt like Gojira absolutely crushed it, to be honest. I felt like they
were on. Yeah, Gojira was cool because they're like a band for musicians. If you're a musician, you get it. If and I'm not saying like if you're not, you don't get it, but you get it a little bit more. You kind of understand it a little bit easier.
Yeah. All right. So I reached out to you because I wanted to get to know drummers a little bit more in and around the States, and I've also got to know some other drummers out in the international world too. And it's been good to at least like hear like different stories, even about the struggles, because we're all human, and obviously each one of us perhaps has some sort of journey that we've gone through, regardless of whether it's been good or painful and stuff like that. So I wanted to share this with the audience out there and just get to know you a little bit more and your journey as well. So I got some questions here for you. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. So let's start off with a simple one. Tell us a little bit about your drum history.
Drum history. I actually started when I was 4 years old. I have an uncle who started on drums, and that was just kind of a thing that I just found, as a little kid. And it's kind of hard to explain. I don't think you pick instruments. I think instruments pick you. And that one just, it picked me. I haven't really shied from it since I was a little kid. So just learned, went to school for it, tried to get educated behind the instrument. And it's taken me all over the country, so you always get told music won't take you anywhere. And I think that's completely bogus. It can take you all over the world if you let it. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I started, is just as a young kid, loved it and just stuck with it.
That's pretty sweet. Was your uncle like in any bands or anything like that, or was he just kind of doing it for fun?
At the time he was doing it for fun. And lately it's kind of funny how like circles come back around, because I ended up actually being in a band with him, 30 years later. So it kind of worked out pretty well. But he ended up wanting to sing, and be a front man, which I can't blame him. Like, you're in the front, drummers are in the back. It's a complete opposite shift. But he just went to vocals, and I love drumming so much that they kind of just put me right there and said, "There you go."
They do have like some drummers who like do the 2-in-1 with the vocals and the drums. I'm always amazed like how they do that, to be honest, because I think it's either like a little headset or the mic's off to the side right here.
Mm-hmm.
I think one was like a Fit for an Autopsy. That's one of those metal bands that I listen to. I know their drummer does both drums and vocals too, so he has to like turn kind of like this to growl his vocals and all that stuff too. So it's impressive too. You have to give him credit for doing something like that.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I think Aaron from Under Oath is one that when I was a teenager, that's one that I really remember, was vocals and drums. And then, you look at bands like Eagles and Phil Collins, and you're like, how do you guys do this? Like, how do you sing and play? Because it's hard enough to count and play at times. But I mean, I would be very impressed if you had somebody like Danny Carey counting polyrhythms and then singing at the same time. That would be awesome.
Absolutely, yeah. And all of those are very good drummers too. Kind of jumping ahead with this one, but would you consider those drummers to be like your influences, or do you have like any others you want to kind of talk about?
Oh man, I influences are kind of weird with me because they change. That quote that Buddy Rich said about all the drummers before him he considers an influence. That's kind of where I'm at. I just love the instrument so much that I just pick from all kinds. Like, I love metal drummers. I love jazz drummers. I think they're kind of the OGs of the drum world. But I also love drummers that can just sit and play in the pocket all day long. Like Tommy Lee might get a lot of crap for his drum playing, but the dude just stays in the pocket, does what he needs to do, and the job gets done. And that's a huge influence. And then if you want to jump on the opposite side and have people like Danny Carey again that just do all these crazy things, that's also an influence too. So I think just how people play the instrument, and the differences are what I find very influential, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, even if the drummer's just keeping a simple 4/4 beat the whole time, I mean, he's still doing his job. That's what he's basically paid to do. So,
yeah, absolutely.
I would say I've always had trouble with syncopated patterns. Would you say that's also a tough thing for you too?
Yeah, it is. It can be. I think just naturally we want to count in four, and then when you have like a guitarist or a bassist playing in like 12/8, you got to learn how to subdivide a little bit. But once you get that down, then it becomes easy. And then I think naturally you want to like push yourself to find the most difficult thing you can do. But I'm a fan of in the pocket, like just keep it in the pocket, do your job, and that's what drummers are there for.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of going back to my first question there. Did you start off with any other instruments before drums, or did the drums call you and then you just went with it and rolled with it ever since?
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. They just called to me. I feel like I did the dumbest thing when I was in middle school. So I was in band, and we got to pick our instruments. And I picked trombone because the neighbor kid played trombone. I picked that over drums, and still to this day, like, I find it to be the dumbest thing I've ever done. But then I went to college for it and just fell in love with it because when you go to school for an instrument, they break you down essentially. So they break you into all these little tiny pieces, and then they help you build yourself back up with all this different knowledge and stuff like that. So drumming it's never been hard for me. I love the instrument so much that there's challenges, but I've never like disliked doing it ever, no matter how challenging it became.
That's really good to hear. Yeah. It's always interesting. Like, it's always like certain stories from like everybody who's like got into drums like somehow. And I always want to ask because I started off in strings. I did cello for a good number of years from elementary school all the way from my high school years before I jumped on drums. And mine had to be an interesting story with getting on drums through Rock Band, which I did my YouTube video on for that. So, and I've been rolling with it ever since, and I love it for a good exercise and times even challenging myself too, since it works all different parts of your body, so you're able to get a nice sweat and everything down.
Oh, absolutely. You use all four limbs, and the brain too. It's amazing how much brain work is behind it. You wouldn't think it, but it's all mathematics. So with drumming, you got to sit there and actually be somewhat good at fractions if if you want to know like how to do certain things. But our bodies, I guess, like naturally have a pulse, so it helps with a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. Do you mind checking your camera real quick? The picture seems a little bit off for some reason. Seems a little
Yeah.
out of focus. So
Is it good now?
a little bit better. I'm not too sure if it's just out of focus or just a little buzzy for some reason.
Let's see. Okay. That's probably the best I can get it. Could be the lighting too.
Possibly, but it's all good. If that's the best you can do, then I think it's just you were kind of a little slow there too, so it's all good. All right, let's keep rolling. All right.
Cool.
For this next question, since I was talking about drumming and everything, what do you like most about drumming? Is it more the challenge, or nice little exercise, or what have you?
Um, I love the pure spiritual like liberation you get from it. Like when you just play and you kind of like black out. Like I kind of refer to it as like in a way you kind of like werewolf out or Hulk out. Like you become this completely different thing behind it and you black out, totally forget what happened. But it's such a spiritual release um, that's what I love about it. And it's non-judging. You don't judge it. It's just like this thing that is, it's hard to explain. It's just became such a part of me that I don't really know anything else.
It's
So
like
it's,
you are one with the cosmos. Just say it like that. You are one with the cosmos.
yeah, we'll just put that as the um, but yeah, I mean, it just becomes one of those things that it's just you. It's part of who you are as a person, and that's what I love about it. Now the scary part is I have thought about like what my life would be like without it, and that's the most saddest, terrifying thought I think I've had in a long time. It actually scared the hell out of me thinking about it. So that's when I knew that it was something that I have to have. It's who I am as an individual.
I mean, it's either that or take up video games for a good while, and then after that, you just kind of sit down doing nothing most of the time.
Right, right.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a. I was trying to say spiritually too. Like yours, not to kind of judge or anything like that, but it has like the hippie kind of sense to it too. So I have to admit that's actually one of the different answers I've had from all the interviews I had so far too. So I actually like it. I love it actually.
Cool. We're all hippies in Colorado, so I mean, don't let anybody kind of. It's kind of how we are over here, I guess.
The new California, I guess, as we could say, because it seemed like everybody went to California first and then they spread out afterwards. Was that how it went?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, especially in like the bigger cities. So like where I live, there's maybe 130,000 people in the whole county, right? So it's not like Denver where there's millions of people that live there. But the whole state is like that. We're all just like this giant kind of like uh, awesome place. Like because I've toured the country, and I'm not just saying this to be biased, but Colorado definitely is one of the best states I've been to. I haven't been too far on the East Coast, and I hear amazing things about like the East. But yeah, I mean, as far as like the West Coast goes, if I wouldn't move to California. Colorado is just it's awesome.
We draw
I
the
love
line at Colorado. We'll just say that.
yeah,
We draw the line at Colorado.
right.
Well, especially now, and not to get too serious, but with all the wildfires and everything going on in California, it seems like there's always some sort of drama now going out in California, Oregon, and Washington. So
Yeah.
I don't know how people deal with it, to be honest. I wouldn't want to be staying there. In fact, I actually interviewed a friend last week who lives out in Oregon. He was big into metal too, and he says his is pretty. His suburb is at least chill. He says Portland now is kind of a little bit of a what's the word? Crazy, just for lack of a better term, crazy place now, and not like what he remembered it to be. So it's always good to like hear stories about like stuff like this too, so people know like what's going on, or if they do decide to visit it, whether it's going to be a trip that they're going to say it was totally not worth it, we should never have thought of it, or stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, That happens here in Colorado too. I mean, like we get wildfires, but the cool thing about our state is how we like manage our wildlife and the outdoors and everything to where it never gets too crazy. I mean, we've learned that those wildfires they're a part of nature, but where I live, it's very dry, so it's not up on the mountain. So when we get fires down here, they're kind of pretty gnarly, but they haven't happened in quite a while. So knock on wood, they kind of stay that way.
That's good. Yeah, that's very good to hear.
Yeah.
All right, and so before we get too off with politics, let's get back to the drumming right here. So let's see. Is your kid nearby?
Is there a kid nearby?
No, your drum kit. Is it right behind you there?
I have my electric one that I use, and then I have like an old mesh kit that I practice. But then my DW is actually in the studio room. I have like 4 different drum kits spread out through the house. So
yeah, I've seen your videos on Facebook too. Are those ones you're just kind of testing out different styles or anything, or what are you trying to do there?
That's actually the DW kit. So that's a PDP DW concept kit that I use for shows. It's got a 24-inch kick drum, and that's what I love about it. It's just got such a nice boom. But the thing that I kind of change a lot with that kit are the toms. So my most recent videos, they've been like roto toms because you get kind of more of a punch out of those. And then if not, then I'll just switch back to like a 12-inch, one rack tom, one floor tom. So it's just kind of, back to influences, like what's influencing me at the moment. So with the roto toms, it was just kind of trying to get different sounds and more polyrhythmic kind of stuff like that I could try to throw into my playing.
That's pretty sweet. Are you trying anything in particular with? They kind of look like short videos too. Are you just kind of like meant to kind of show your style, kind of get somebody's attention, or is it just like, hey, here's my playing, here's how I approach this and that?
Pretty much. Well, it's kind of weird because they're actually the opposite of how I play live. So I went from being in a rock band where I could just kind of play, all crazy, throw sticks, catch them, because I'm very flashy when I play, and it's not to be flashy. It's just I have so much fun that's just what happens without thinking. So the videos, after I quit doing that, were just something that I would film of me practicing because I wanted to learn new things. And then my girlfriend was like, well, hey, why don't you just post 30 seconds to a minute of these clips and just throw them up there and see what people think. And they've actually worked. YouTube is great. When you break like over 1,000 views on each of your videos, it's a small number, but I'm a dude from a small Colorado town. I'll take 5 plays any day, So those videos were just kind of just to throw up to show like how I practice and what I work on, and just kind of to expand different things, to show my vocabulary behind the instrument, I should say.
That's actually pretty cool too. And yours, you kind of seem maybe to like focus on maybe some particular parts of the drums. Maybe I think the most recent one was like more floor tom, snare, maybe keeping beat with the hi-hat too. So it was like you were kind of maybe doing like a little bit of a jazz groove or something like that. So it's pretty cool too. And it's good to see that you're getting a little recognition for your practices, sessions, or whatever they might be. So it's good to see.
Yeah.
And good woman too. She fought ahead for you too. Good woman.
Yeah. You would think that they'd be like, wait, you're playing drums again today? And it's to the point where I get on her nerves, and she's like, I think you should go play your drums. Or when I say, hey, I'm going to go play my drums, it's never an issue. But yeah, with those, it's just a practice thing for me with the videos. And, every once in a while you post and you get the people that know everything about the instrument, know how to play every beat, those kind of critiquers. And you just kind of, it's, from what I've learned, it's best to just kind of ignore that. But, you and I met on a Facebook drum group. And that's what I like about the drumming groups is everyone's actually pretty chill and supportive and very helpful. Like, hey, try this, or how do you do this? It's just like this nice community of drummers that just want to help each other out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I always keep kicking myself for it too, because I wish when I had started my YouTube channel about a year ago, I kind of wish I had found these groups out sooner rather than so much later. It's something I think of now because obviously it's been successful getting me through this much so far, especially the subscribers, the views, being able to chat with people like you.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a blessing. And now I kick myself thinking like, why didn't I just think of this sooner or that sort of thing? So, but
Yeah.
we learn. That's what we can do. So,
Yeah, and the social media game, man, like I'm there with you. It's so hard, but I did learn a trick. And for all the musicians out there who want to get more views on their videos or, podcasts or videos that they do, anything like that, use hashtags. Like those are the most important thing you can use, and it'll actually help get views. Like YouTube, if I did kind of was testing it out one day, I posted a 3-minute video without hashtags. Nothing. I had 0 views. And then like I posted a 9-second video, used the top drum hashtags and broke like 2,000 views. I'm like, oh, okay, that's how it works. I get it.
yeah.
Yes. Hashtags are great.
I know. I've just been abusing it ever since. In fact, if you look at my recent titles with all the episodes, drum covers, and all that stuff, I'm just fitting as much as I can in there, to be honest, and even in the descriptions too.
Oh yeah. I mean, you have to today. That's kind of the thing about it.
Well, what's weird is like when you start typing it in like some cases, more specifically for YouTube, it's not like then it shows you that long list. It'll be like, you want to use this hashtag, this one, as compared to like when I use it on LinkedIn. It's not like that on YouTube. That's what I kind of wish they would do. So it's like, hey, this one gets like 21 billion or something like that, and I'll go ahead and use that since it gets more recognition. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I try. That's all I can
Yeah.
I try.
As long as you try, man, I think that's the whole point of it. I recently discovered, because I kind of didn't like it at first, and it wasn't on a political level by any means, but it was just like, I don't want to go on TikTok because it's just people doing these stupid ass dancing things. It wasn't, it just kind of fits your algorithm to what you're into. And actually, the music community on TikTok is awesome because you can stitch and duet with other musicians, and everyone's cool, So TikTok was one that I was like, oh my God, this is a great tool for musicians if it's used properly. But same thing, use your hashtags and stuff like that. And that's how you kind of get into that stuff.
Yeah, it's like trends with like TikTok too. And I know everybody keeps, or at least when it starts getting political too, they'll start digging into like some of the deeper stuff there, or what they would consider woke or whatever they want to call it these days. So unfortunately, they bash TikTok for having this and that sort of community on there. So
yeah, there's always something to bash, I feel. But I mean, if people just took the time to be positive with it and use their own like positivity and stuff like that, they'd actually find kind of what makes them a little bit happy or joyful, with something so small.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you might live longer too. Just being happy and that stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. All right. But this is not meant to be a political podcast. This is meant to be a drumming podcast. We are musicians. So power to the musicians.
Yes.
Okay. You had mentioned about your rock group that you were a part of. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I was in a group called Stone Deaf, and they're actually from Glenwood, or like Newcastle, Glenwood area here in Colorado. And I started off as a hired gun with that band. So I was playing with my uncle's band. We were playing a show, and Stone Deaf played right after us. And apparently their drummer left. And about 2 months after that show, I got a phone call saying, hey, we need a drummer to come fill in. We're going to go play South by Southwest. We're going to go on this tour. And I had no idea who these guys were. And I said yes, without even like looking into stuff. I was just like, yeah, let's just go. And then after that, they accepted me and were like, no, hey, change all your social medias to say you're in the band. So I was never asked to join. I was told to join, kind of a thing. So I did that for a bit, and then COVID happened. And that was kind of a rough thing for all of us musicians. It wasn't just a certain group. Everybody was affected by that. So we couldn't tour for about 1.5 years. And when you're constantly on the go and you're doing these tours and then it stops, it's kind of crappy. It wears on you mentally because you don't know what to do. It's such an adjustment. And then after that, we went on another tour, and then I stepped away for a bit just because of, trying to kind of just figure stuff out. I think all musicians do that. You go through like this rebuilding period. But I love those dudes, and I keep in touch with them. We talk all the time, and so it's good, that happened, and just playing with all these groups that I have. I try to just play with as many musicians as I can, because to me, I learn from each of them.
That's a pretty sweet story. And it's good to see that you guys are still friends too. Sometimes those stories with bands, there's usually like a falling out. Was there anything like that? Any sort of falling out or any sort of drama?
No, there was no drama. Really, it was just, I guess, like one of those things where it's like you and me, like I just kind of, you question yourself, you question your playability. You kind of, it happens with every artist or musician. You just have to go through like this rebuilding phase. But I mean, yeah, there's no drama with those guys. I love those dudes. I consider them family. And, like I said, we still talk. So there was never oh my God, you quit, we're going to stop talking. It was I'm really sorry, but please go take care of yourself first, because we're friends before we're bandmates. And that's kind of a hard thing when you're in a signed band, because they were signed too. And, business does kind of clog the mind a bit. As soon as dollar signs are involved, that changes the game completely. And it's, all musicians will say, well, that won't change me and blah, blah, blah. But when you're in that spot, you have no control. It will change things. So, luckily for us, it was just a giant understanding of just, hey, man, we love you. I love you guys, but we got to make sure that everyone is okay. So I'm glad that it worked out like that.
Absolutely. Those are some good bandmates there.
They're great dudes.
Absolutely. And the phrase goes, money talks. That's pretty much how it is. So I can't tell you well, outside of drugs too, but also money was always usually an issue with like a lot of those big name bands that you would know. And I know one band, Slipknot, I think it was with the one percussionist, drummer, Kris, I think his name was.
Yeah.
I know there was like that whole money issue going on the side too. And it's like, really? You guys are making killer music. You're one of the top bands in the world. And we're going to get into an issue about money. So, human nature. It's completely unpredictable. So, do you think you guys might get back together and start touring again?
I would love to. I would love to do that. It just kind of depends on what they got going on with their schedules and band wise. So I would hope so. Yeah, but I would love to just go on tour and kind of get that stuff going again. Because now that like I've kind of figured out things that were important, because I think COVID was a really good thing with that. It helped us all realize like what was actually important in our lives. And so yeah, I mean, now that I'm coming back from that rebuilding phase of it, it would be great to join and do that stuff again. I would love to do that.
Yeah. And I know when I was talking with studio manager, he had talked about how the state had did non-business entities as like the first things that had like closed down or shut down completely when COVID had hit. Was that kind of the same thing in Colorado too? They had to close the studios and at least the bars that had like live stages. Is that how they did it?
Yeah, man, like everything stopped. I mean, and it was literally like overnight. Like one night, here you are at this concert. The next day you wake up and you're like, oh, everything's closed. This is weird. And then we had to do I don't know if it was like this across the nation, but we had to do like a shelter in place where we couldn't leave our houses, which was kind of odd. When you never experience that and then you experience it, of course, there's going to be different opinions. It was weird. It was very weird because there was nothing. Even like my work, we couldn't go to work. They're like, stay at home, but we'll still pay you to stay at home. Okay, I stayed at home and played drums for a month. Like my work paid me to play drums. It was great. So no complaint staying at home, but it does wear on you when the things that you do for an escape are no longer there. That escape's gone.
Yeah. So in a sort of sense, was it kind of a blessing in disguise? It allowed you to make money doing drums and stuff like that, but it allowed you to stay home and stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like how I always looked at that, as a blessing in disguise. Because, I mean, of course, not going anywhere is not going to be fun, but if you're a musician, I always thought, well, hey, that's great because you can just stay at home and play your instrument all day. So that was always the flip to me. It was never a bad thing completely.
I guess did the COVID have like any impacts on your family or anything, or you mentally?
Not at first. I think, or even during the process, no. But I think after everything kind of the dust settled and everything opened, it got back to normal. It was kind of weird because then it was like exhausting because you spend this whole year in this whole different mental state, and then once you catch yourself in that and everything opens up, you are exhausted mentally. I was very lucky. None of my family or nor myself was affected really by it. I mean, nobody passed away or got super extremely sick to where that did happen. So I'm very lucky in that sense. I know there are some families that can't say that, and that's very heartbreaking. But for me personally, it wasn't that bad. It was just a take care of yourself, take care of each other kind of thing.
All right. And obviously, for those who are affected by COVID, and the whole music community supports you too, and we love you too. So,
oh, absolutely.
Special love out there. You talked about your social media. Did you start doing YouTube and stuff like that during the COVID, or was that well before?
There was traces of it before, but I didn't take it as, and I still don't take it serious. It's just one of those things where I just try to post twice a day and that's it. Like, I don't think anything else of it. But before, like, I would make like little videos and stuff, but I was so busy with the band at the time that I didn't have a whole lot of time to do that. So then after I left, it was like, well, I have all this time. I can go practice, film it, and do all that. So it was kind of just, I think, taking the place of being in a band now is kind of how I use it.
I've seen you mostly on Facebook too. I guess, do you use your name on YouTube, or I guess what kind of name do you use?
On YouTube, it's my full name, how it is on Facebook. I try to keep everything consistent like that to where it's easier to find. Because there are people on, like Snapchat, because I use Snapchat as well. There's different people everywhere. So I just try to post everywhere I can and then, hear feedback, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah. I guess, let's see. Just one check one. What do you hope to achieve on your social media and YouTube channels?
I guess like a goal, I've never really thought of that because it's all just kind of fun for me. A goal would just to be like, if I can help other musicians, that's it, or if somebody watches a video and becomes inspired by it, that's it. I know we live in a world where it's full of influencers, you can, do island boy stuff or whatever that is and be a millionaire. That's not my goal. Just like help people, if you become influenced, great. If you see something cool you want to try, awesome. If you see something you don't like and you're going to do everything in your power not to do that, that's cool too. Just to help people is my goal with it. Absolutely. And the most important thing with playing an instrument is having fun. So as long as I'm having fun, I think that's the most important thing.
That's one that my most recent interviews, that's what everybody has been saying. They're saying like the main thing is to have fun, that sort of thing. And
oh yeah.
I know. Actually, I always liked the way Mike Few had put it. He was one of the drummers I had interviewed. He's like, "Oh, you can't play this," or "You're playing like an asshole," or something like that. So, how do you deal with any negative comments? Do you get a whole lot, or are they just ones you just ignore?
I do get some. I think if you put yourself on the internet, in any regard, you can do the most perfect thing ever. And there is going to be that person that will find a way to leave a negative remark. But I've learned to look at it as in like an insecure thing. So if somebody's going to say something like that, it's always a reflection of how they feel about themselves, because that's what we do when we spread negativity. It's all a reflection of ourselves. So I try to ignore it, or if they like kind of push it, because some people do, I won't just jump in there claws out. I will actually send a positive comment like, well, hey, if you need help doing this, let me know. Or, hey, show me a video of how you would do it. I try to kind of flip it back, and sometimes it works, and they will, and then sometimes they won't. Usually I've noticed if I'm like, okay, well, hey, show me a video of how you do it, and not being snarky, like being sincere, they won't do it. So the best thing I've learned is to just kind of go about your day, ignore it, because there are those people that will be like, hey, that's really cool. How did you do that? And to me, those are the people that actually really care, that want to know how you do something. But it's the internet, everybody has their own opinion there.
Well, it's always especially weird when it happens to be like in a foreign language. Do you get those ones too?
Yeah, where I like have to hit the translation button and I'm like, oh man, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I should have just left it. But that's kind of the thing. It's different cultures, they do things differently. But it does have a flip side to it. So when they leave a positive remark, it's really cool too, because there's somebody in the Philippines that loves what you do and they appreciate it and they want to know more about that. So that's very rewarding as well. It's pros and cons.
Yeah, I see what you mean too. You do want like maybe constructive criticism. That's maybe what we're mainly looking for. Is like, tell us a little bit like, okay, what am I doing wrong? Was I a little off right there? Like, it's more of what we want because then it helps us improve, and then we also show respect too. I mean, we don't really show any respect to somebody who just says like, you're not playing it right or not even close or stuff like that. So,
yeah.
I mean, do you sometimes get the constructive criticism?
Yeah, I get constructive criticism a lot, and especially in the Facebook groups, the drumming groups, where it's like, hey man, that's really cool that you did it that way. Sounds great. Try it like this, and then let me know like if that worked out for you. So it's cool because then you get the, hey, try it like this, or let me know what you think about this. So there's all like this really kind of positive, constructive criticism. And then you have those guys on there that are like, I've been playing 45 years. You're doing it wrong. And it's like, dude, I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, well, if you're being a jerk about something, I don't care what you've done, because then you're not being constructive. You're being you're belittling people. And that gets musicians nowhere, like, pardon my French, if you're an asshole, that doesn't get you anywhere in the music field. Being nice and being, just a good, helpful person does, especially in an industry that is like full of sharks, dude. Like, you have to be nice in an industry that is full of monsters and sharks. It's very grotesque in a weird way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's pretty much with any industry, really, when you think about it. But in ours, there's always, the sharks smell blood in the water, they'll come forward. That's for sure. So.
Oh, dude, and they can smell it miles away, too.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Since you have so many kits, I guess you said you have 2 electronic sets behind you. Between that and your acoustic sets, which do you prefer to play with the most?
I think just naturally I like the acoustic kit just because it's loud, goes boom, just the simple things. But I'm not one of those drummers that picks acoustics or electronics. I love them both because they both do different things. They are tools in my toolbox, and it just depends on what job I got to do. Recording wise, I will, I've done acoustic, but I like doing electronic too, because if I got to do a quick recording session, I could just plug it into my laptop, get some really good drum sounds, play it on the electronic kit, and then send it out. I don't have to spend 2 days trying to get mic placements right, and it's more efficient that way. If I'm in a session where I can actually take the time, record, I like mics. I like all of it. It just kind of just depends on the job you got to do.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I've always seen more of the pros with having electronic sets, since you don't have to worry about the tuning or any of the mic placements or anything like that, since now you're just able to plug it all in your computer, DAW, or what have you. So it's easy then just to make the simple track, and then you're just able to ship it off, and then whoever, your producer or perhaps a guitar player who acts as a homemade producer or something like that, they're able then to just mold it all together. So it's amazing where we came.
Oh, absolutely. And like, I know some drummers will think that electronic kits are cheating. It's not, because you have to play it the same way you would an acoustic. So you're just it's the same kind of principle, just different, completely different structures,
And you're
which
able to
is,
just change it on a dime too. Yeah. So
yeah, like your drums don't go out of tune. Easy Drummer's great. I can pick if I want a metal sounding drum kit or an old fashioned rock kit or a jazz kit, or, it's great. It's awesome.
absolutely. And before we
Yeah.
jump to the other segment, what brand are your sticks? Do you have a pair on you right now?
I just, no, I don't have them on me. They're by my acoustic kit, but I actually just switched back to Vic Firth. I used Vic Firth and all through college and when I started, and then I was using Vader. I love Vader; they're great sticks. I just felt that the feel of the Vic Firths were right. They're more of a home kind of feel to me, since I learned the instrument on those. But I usually switch between the 5As or the 5Bs, just regular Vic Firth sticks. I love them. They're great. They do the job.
Yeah, I roll with Vic Firth too. I don't know if they're 5As or 5Bs. I just know they work. They've been a good stick that I've had for a good while, so I don't know if I'm going to switch it since just been having it for such a good while too, so
Yeah.
not sure.
Yeah, if it's not broken, don't fix it. That's how I look at it.
I'd say more of why mess up a good thing. That's what I would say. So,
Right.
yeah, absolutely. All right, so we've reached this part of the podcast episode where now I give my interviewees a little bit of freedom to ask me anything or if there's something you'd like to get off your chest. So, fire away.
Let's see. Actually, yeah, I got a question. If I was reading correctly, are you in Pennsylvania?
I am, yeah. I'm in around Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay. So, let's see, sports guy.
I watch it every now and again. I guess. Are you a big Colorado Avalanche fan?
Yes, dude. That's the thing about Colorado. We love our sports here. So the Avalanche are killing it right now, and football season could not get here soon enough. Uh, it's kind of weird in Colorado, man. Like if you were to put it on a level, there's like football and then like religion right underneath. Like right. Sports are up here. But the reason I ask about Pennsylvania is because like I've heard a lot of great things about that area, and I've always wanted to go play there, and just a lot of cool things I've heard from people.
Oh yeah, actually Pittsburgh's got a big developing music scene too because this was something I was talking with that music producer I was talking with earlier. His name was Larry, and
Mm-hmm.
he's talking about how all these scenes are coming in and about now. So we got jazz, the metal, rock, rap, all that stuff. It's all here too. It's just like you got to bring them in and then have them show off their skills and stuff like that too. So
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll get to the what's the word? I guess heights that Nashville, L.A., and big cities like that have like achieved in the music scene. So
Yeah.
it would be nice. I don't know, is Denver, Boulder, or Grand Junction? They got a nice big music scene.
Yeah, it's where I'm at. It's very diverse. You have your metal bands, which are cool. You have your punk bands, which are a lot of the younger musicians just starting, and I love it because it's just them, their heart, and their instrument. I really love that. It reminds me of like when I started. A lot of bluegrass is huge here. Like I said earlier, we are kind of like a state of hippies. So, like our calm bluegrass, reggae music's huge here. And then in Denver's just a melting pot of everything. You have your doom, your metal, your reggae, your EDM, your bluegrass. You have all of it. And there's no conflict with it. Everybody just appreciates all the different cultures that go through.
Yeah.
So it's, and I mean, again, we're not like Chicago, Los Angeles, or New York, but that's the beautiful part about it because you can actually be a decent sized fish. Unlike you go play to LA, you're like, okay, well, you're just like one in a million. What makes you so great and stick out? That's kind of like the downfall with it. But it's a little bit easier to make a name for yourself and say like Denver and stuff like that than, obviously LA or Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously you saw my pick too. That one was from the Peterson Event Center in Pittsburgh. That was where I saw Deftones, Gojira, and that Valves band. And Stage AE is another one that was like my other videos I did with Opeth, Mastodon, and Chemist.
Uh-huh.
So it's got it's got plenty of stages all over Pittsburgh too. So I mean, you're more than welcome to come out here. You'll find great venues and all that stuff. So
All that.
I don't know so
Well,
much
hopefully.
about I don't know so much about Philly. So that one you have to gotta do your own research on that. So I'm sorry, what were you saying there?
Oh no, definitely got to make it out there for that. Like I would love to just like I say, go out there. So are you a Steelers fan or an Eagles fan, or if you, or not at all? I know people like aren't really into that stuff.
I'm Steelers. Steelers for
Oh,
through. I have a
cool.
hard time watching playoff games at times, especially when it's the excruciating one where they should be winning pretty good, but they're not winning, and or it's a close game and stuff like that. And it's like, oh my gosh, I can't watch this. I'm going to have a heart attack here, man, or stuff like that.
Oh,
But
dude,
Steelers, and I have respect for the Avalanche. I think you guys can go far, but I would say I love my Penguins. I'm hoping they win tonight, so here's hoping.
well, I hope they do. I hope they do too. Like it. I like rooting for a lot of those other teams as well. In hockey, if you're the Wild, I can't root for it if you're in Minnesota. Um, but no, football's great. I mean, you guys got a new quarterback, starting to rebuild, so hopefully you guys do good.
We'll have to see. I know they did a lot of signing after Bennett left, so now it opened up so much cap space. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But you guys, I was amazed what you guys did because you got Russell Wilson from Seattle of all places. So now you got the quarterback and you got the running back. I think you have the O line. So I think for the most part your offense is there. I think now it's strictly more your defense. So I'm
Yeah.
interested to see how you guys do this year.
Oh, yes. Same here. I mean, I know all of us in the state were very surprised because one minute we were like all bummed out because Aaron Rodgers, signed on with Green Bay for this huge extension. And we're like, oh, great, we're stuck with Drew Lock. And then not even 5 minutes later, we're all like, wait, we got Russell Wilson. Where did this come from? So, no, trust me, we were all very surprised as well.
But then they jumped for joy and then they went and got wasted at their favorite watering hole, as my dad would say. It's just a name for the bar that we always say. So, all right. So
We
it's good to
went
see.
from
So,
words. That's awesome. You
oh,
guys play everywhere.
I'm sorry.
Right?
Can you repeat? I'm sorry. Can you repeat that again? You were getting a little cut off there.
Oh yeah, no, it's cool. We went from music to football, and I love that because people think like if you're a musician, you don't like sports or appreciate it, and I love it, dude. It's great.
It's something to watch, but me and my family we love more of the college football, which is in this case in the deep south, it's religion and football at the very bottom there. One and two, one
Ah,
and two. We would say that.
yeah.
Up here, I think it would be, as you'd say, sports and then religion afterwards. So we'll leave it at that. So,
Yeah, it's kind of where we're at too. It's awesome.
but I was a little bit surprised with the Avalanche getting now into hockey a little bit. I actually thought there would be a little bit of a fight. I was rooting for you guys to beat Nashville, but I thought it would be a little longer. I thought it would get like 6 games, but
Mhm.
you guys swept them pretty good. So you guys are gonna be tough. I'll give you that.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of like the thing. It's like I look at the Avalanche and I love them. I'm from Colorado. That's my team. But I kind of look at them as like the Green Bay Packers. They're going to go to the playoffs, but if they win it, that's the other thing. They're going to go, but winning it is completely different. You'll get to that championship game, but they're probably not going to go to the Super Bowl. It's like just one of those things. But this year could, and I hope will be different because they're a great team, but it's those last finals that they choke, and it's very heartbreaking.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. And I was kind of the same way with the Tampa Bay Lightning when you had all those great players and then you end up getting swept by the Montreal Canadiens of all teams. And then you come back the next year and then you do two in a row. So that's kind of
Hmm.
hope for kind of what I'm hoping with Colorado. But you got guys like David McKinnon and all those guys ranting in. Let's see, you still got Landeskog?
I think so.
I was gonna say like you have that whole first line there. You got superstars out the wazoo, and you see you had Kadri, Burakovsky. I know some of the players, so I at least know some of them. But you got it all, so now you just got to bring it all together and hope you can score more than the other team at this point.
Right, right. And I think now that we're moving into the second round, I think we got to beat the Blues now. I think that's the team we got to we got to beat to make it, which I'm very happy because if we were playing Minnesota Wild, I'd be a little bit more scared because the Wild are good at beating the Avalanche. The Avalanche can be the best team in the league, but the Wild knows how to beat them. And I'm so happy we don't have to play them. I'm
Yeah.
very happy.
You know,
So,
I felt bad too when Minnesota lost because I don't know if they've ever made it past the first round, to be honest. I've always thought they were able to make it, but then they lose it in the first round, and it's like we're so ticked off and everything. So
yeah.
I don't know. I guess, did you have any other questions or anything you want to get off your chest before we jump to the last question?
No, I'm good.
All right. So, obviously, considering what you told us about COVID and everything, especially with how maybe not so much negatively impacted your life, it seems like it really kind of helped you out a little bit. Some people obviously were not as fortunate to. So, one of the last questions I always like to ask is, what sort of message of hope can you give to other musicians out there who are perhaps in the same spot you are or struggling to make it big?
Um, I would say don't give up. I mean, as cliche and probably ran through the mud as that term is, there's a reason it's used. So if you don't give up and you have fun, you'll get to where you want to be and you'll accomplish great goals. Now, if you want to make it big and do all of that, do that. If a goal is to just stay in your basement and practice and be the best player you can be, do that. Like, don't compare yourself to other musicians. Just find the goals that you want to achieve, have fun, love what you do, and you'll eventually get to where you want to go. Music is hard, though. I mean, it's not like, well, I guess it is like anything else. You know, if you want to be successful, there are hurdles. There's all of that. But if you just love what you do, have fun, and don't give up, you'll get there.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
works. I mean, I don't know if it works for everybody else.
You said it worked for you, and that's how you got to where you are right now?
Yeah. I mean, I just always have loved what I do and have had fun. Now there are moments where they're not so fun, obviously. But if you love the instrument and love what you do, it makes it less difficult to get over those hurdles.
Absolutely, yeah. And
Yeah.
spoken like a true prodigy. It's always what we like to hear on here. All right.
Uh,
So I guess before we wrap up and everything, any shout outs or anything else you want to say?
um, Not that I can think of. See, I can't think on the spot. I'm terrible at that. But you would think being taught jazz, you got to think on the spot. I can't. So actually, just all the drummers like in our groups that we know and you know that we post with. I just want to say thanks to everybody. You know, whether it's good criticism, bad criticism, things you don't enjoy, things you do enjoy. Just thank you for the time, and thank you for having me because these are always fun to do, especially when you're across the country right now. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess if anybody wants to venture out into Colorado, let's see, we're entering summer now. So I guess where can we go for tourists who want to see Colorado? Where do you recommend?
Ooh, I recommend the whole state. It's beautiful. There's not a part in the state that I don't like. It's all different, but it's all the same. If you like mountains, like the weird part is it's 80 degrees here, but I'm sure if I drive 2 hours up by Vail, where I was talking about, there's probably snow on the top of the mountain. It's the bipolar state. You think you're getting one thing, and you can completely get the opposite. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess Denver and Boulder, they'll each offer their own things. But Pueblo, right? There's a city called Pueblo, right? Or
there
however you pronounce
is.
it.
Yeah, Pueblo. Yep, that's southern Colorado. So I mean, again, that's over by like the New Mexico area, kind of. Great, beautiful spot.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I have to get out there one of these days. I don't know if my dad actually ever traveled through the state because just kind of tell a little quick story. Way back in the day, like back in the '70s, for him, it took a one big ass road trip, probably most around most of the states, and I don't know if they ventured into Colorado, but I know they went through the Texas Panhandle, New Mexico, and stuff like that, and then I think they circled back going through, let's see, Wyoming, Idaho, Dakotas, where he actually saw his first Native American there before they
Hmm.
eventually came back to Pittsburgh. So it was a pretty interesting story. So I always like the pictures that he shows me from it too. So I've always thought about trying to do something like that. So
Oh yeah,
one of these
it's
days.
Colorado's beautiful. California has its beaches, its oceans, its palm trees. It's gorgeous, but until you see like mountains that pierce the sky, there's nothing like it. It's like quite breathtaking. And there's a lot of beautiful wildlife here. It's the most beautiful place I've ever seen. So
Hmm.
those that want to come visit Colorado, I highly recommend you do.
If you ever want to visit Pennsylvania too, just to kind of give you, and if you want to share it with anybody else who wants to visit PA, it's not exactly as mountainous as Colorado, but we do have a good amount of national parks and everything. Pittsburgh. I haven't been to Philly too much. Philly, big city and everything, so knock yourself out and everything. Pittsburgh, definitely a great city to visit and get to know other people too. So you might think we're strange because of some of the dialects we do. So we do yins guys or something like that, and Woosher, Pop. I know that's just the immediate ones. I've always the ones that immediately come to mind. I'm sure there are others I just haven't thought of yet. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you guys have your own little dialects out there too?
Um, I'm sure we do, but they've become so embedded. I wouldn't really think that they are like that. I have heard that people that we do have like accents here. So like you would say like mountain. Us, it's mountain. Like just we're gonna go up on the mountain. There is no like nice pronunciation with it. So it's just little things.
Yeah, it's the same way here. You just don't think there's any problem with it. I'm sure some people who say y'all all the time. It just comes naturally. So
Oh, dude, y'all's the thing here too. It's like y'all want anything, and what you all? It's like no, y'all, like all of us, all of you. You guys want anything?
yeah, I don't know. It's America. People just make up words as they go along. So
Right.
all right.
Well,
So
having me, man, I really appreciate it. Of
no worries, and thanks for coming on too. So all right,
course.
everyone. My guest today was Kristofer Petrus. There we go.
Yes.
There we go.
There.
I almost said Petros again. I almost said it again because I was looking at your name because I have it right above here and I was almost going to say it again. Petrus. There we go. So my guest today was Kristofer Petrus, hailing from Colorado, Grand Junction, Colorado. To kind of
Yes.
correct myself there. So, Kris, thank you so much again for coming on, and maybe
Of
we'll
course.
talk again in the future. Maybe do a collaboration at some point. So, until then,
Sounds good.
stay safe,
All
stay
right.
tuned.
See you guys.